diving into the disable alarms shortcut is going to give you a little bit of a bigger glimpse as to what shortcuts can do. So I'm going to tap the three dots there on the corner, and first you're going to see that I've got all the toggle alarms and they're set to disabled. One thing to note is that in the current version, as of October 2018, when they just released the toggle alarm action, you have to enable and disable the alarm for it to work. But once you've done that, then it works great in the app. But so what I wanted to do is that after all of these alarms are turned off, I wanted to set a reminder so that I remember to turn them back on. Well, my day's over at 3:30, and so I wanted that reminder to go off at 3:30 so I could go back to my shortcuts and I could tap my enable button. But it's not so simple. Um, I could just add this new reminder to enable the alarms and it'll go off today at 3:30. But that means that I have to turn all of my alarms off today before 3:30. But say that I'm not going to go to work tomorrow and I want to turn all of my work alarms off tonight. Well, setting an alarm for 3:30 today doesn't do me very much good. So I need to figure out how it's going to set an alarm for today or tomorrow, depending on what time it is. So I'm going to use an if function. And so basically what I want to say is if the time is before 3:30, I want it to remind me today at 3:30. And if the time is after 3:30, then I want it to remind me tomorrow at 3:30. Um, but the problem with that is that for if statements in the Shortcuts app, you can't say before or after a certain time. It has to be equals or contain or greater than or less than. And so what I had to do is I had to create the time as a number value. And this is where it starts to get a little bit complicated, but stick with me here. Um, Before I do that, I needed to use these things called variables. And variables are awesome. What they do is every single one of these actions creates a variable. So this date one up here, the specified date, so that's today 3:30. That's a variable. I can use that. Um, then this other one, the time between dates, and the time between dates is important. And what that is that's how I get my number that I'm going to use in the if statement. Um, what this does is it takes takes the specified date, which is 3:30. That's the time that I want my alarm to go off. And then it says, how many minutes is that away from midnight? Well, that's 15 hours and 30 minutes, so 930 minutes. So behind this action, it has an answer of 930 minutes. And so if I wanted to use that as a variable, then I can. And so that's actually what I did down here is I went through here and I said if the time between dates, and I can get rid of that, and I'll show you how this works. If Let's go to my magic variables and I'm going to go up to the top, and if my time between dates so if if the current date right here, so say that it's 9:41 in the morning, well obviously that's before. So if that number of minutes is less than the 930 minutes from my 3:30 in the afternoon from above, then it's going to set the alarm for today at this time. Well, that date right there, that little pillbox, that's another variable, and I stole that up here from the top. That's my variable from the date category there, where it's the specified date at 3:30. Now, instead of it just being today at 3:30, I made sure that the date was none, and then I just wrote in tomorrow there. And make sure I've got my space there, although I don't know if that really matters. So now it's going to set a reminder for today at 3:30 if I disable them right now. But if I disable my alarms after 3:30 today, then it's going to set my alert to turn them all back on at tomorrow at the same time. That way I get reminded at the appropriate time instead of having a reminder that doesn't do me any good. Then I'm going to go ahead and click done, and that's how you do those shortcuts.